afternoon. We're breaking into programming right now as we are following reports of a confirmed explosion at a hospital in Gatesville. Right now we know that there has been an explosion at the Coryell Memorial Hospital. It happened around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Let's show you the map right now so you can get a better idea of where this is all taking place. You can see there, we're zooming in. There is where the hospital explosion is. It is off of Main.
Again, this is Coryell Memorial Hospital. You see they're up near Highway 84. And here's a picture from earlier from Glenn Jones. You can see the smoke there just billowing by the Gatesville tower there. You can see, again, black smoke. So this was around the 2 o'clock hour,
right?
Early in the 2 o'clock hour when this explosion happened. I know.
Right now, this particular photo, again, as Robert mentioned, is from Glenn Jones. He is not on the scene right now, but he saw all of the smoke again that was billowing near the hospital. He mentioned that the area was blocked off. If we can go back to that first picture with the smoke, he said that he saw around 20 to 30 first responders there. Police vehicles were heading down there, and he also mentioned that power was out from the hospital to the downtown area. Of course, the power company in the area also confirming reports that right now there are around 900 people without power. And if producers, we could switch over to that other photo. This was actually from our reporter Maribel Santiago as she was on the way to the scene. A lot of congestion, a lot of people outside trying to figure out what happened. We know that there was traffic on the way there, so we'll go ahead and take it out to her as she is live on the scene. Maribel, what can you tell us?
Well, Leslie, Robert, I'm actually right across the street from the hospital. Heading further down out of the hospital is Highway 84. That entire area is completely blocked off, bumper to bumper traffic. People are being transported by multiple EMS agencies. Now, I'm going to step out here. I want you to take a look at this behind me. This is a very active scene. We have multiple, like I said, multiple EMS agencies. I've seen Colleen, Temple, just many across our areas. We also seen state troopers, various police departments. Like I said, this is a very active scene. We've seen several people actually out here. We also have firefighters, and we also have seen a couple of construction workers out at the scene. I'm not sure what's happening there. And we've also seen some employees just running in and out. We don't have very much information at this time. We don't know how many people are being transported, where they're being transported to. We don't know the extent of the injuries and the current information on that explosion, but we'll continue providing more information as it becomes available tonight on Fox 44 at 5:30 and 9 o'clock. Guys, back to you.
Now, Maribel, before you go, you mentioned those construction workers. We've heard multiple reports that this happened, the explosion happened in an area near the hospital or inside the hospital where there is ongoing construction right now. They're working on a new wing. Have you been able to confirm any of those reports?
No, I actually have not, but as I did mention, there is an active scene over here on this side of me. There are construction workers just standing out right now. We don't know the reasoning behind them, if they were involved in any way. Those are questions that we still need to get answered. But as of right now, that is an active part of the hospital right now. It looks like there is some construction going on. Not sure what it is yet, but yes, that's what we're looking at as we speak.
Maribel, kind of describe for us real quick, since you've been out there for a few minutes now, what the scene has been. As far as you mentioned, you saw some nurses out there. Have you spoken with anybody? What is their demeanor at this point? Obviously a very scary situation with such a big explosion out there and possible injuries going on.
Sure, absolutely. The look on the faces of the people out here, it is a very chaotic scene. Firefighters, like I said, multiple first responders just going in and out of this road. I did see some people out in scrubs running back and forth, not sure what's going on. And we did step into business right down the road from here. There are people just grouped up, sure, maybe trying to figure out what's going on. Many people very emotional. It's a very emotional time just trying to figure out what is going on at the moment.
Now, Maribel, also, I know you mentioned on your way there you saw multiple ambulances going in towards town. Can you talk a little bit more about that? We also have confirmed reports that Fort Hood is sending crews down there, also hazmat crews with Temple Fire. Have you seen any of their crews there on the ground?
Yes, as I mentioned, I did see some of Colleen EMS, Temple Fire. I did see Temple EMS running through Highway 84. They were going out into, it seemed like It looked like they were going into Waco. I, on my way here, saw easily a dozen active EMS trucks. Just I don't know who they're transporting, what's going on, but it's been very active with multiple ambulances from different agencies going on back and forth around here.
All right, thank you, Maribel. And I know right now we are still trying to get in touch with the marketing director, Carly Latham. Yes. Still trying to wait to hear back from her to get confirmation on the possible amounts of injuries that are ongoing. Thank you, Maribel, for that.
And I know at this point we do want to update our viewers out there. The latest tweet here from Texas A&M Power over there saying that they are still trying to restore power. Initial estimates were that power was going to be restored about 5 o'clock. Now they have pushed it to 6 o'clock for most of their customers who are out of power at this point, mainly homes and businesses in that immediate area. So again, right now, power out. Traffic is just chaotic over in that scene by the hospital right now with this explosion. And we expect to hear more and get an update on not only the situation in the hospital, but also any possible victims as well.
Right, exactly. And we know again that this explosion is impacting not only the immediate hospital area, but as you mentioned, there's power outages. We actually have Richard DeYoung, who lives in Gatesville. He's on the phone with us right now. Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Richard, talk to us a little bit about, first of all, you are safe. You live about 5 miles or 5 minutes away from where this explosion happened. Is that correct?
Yes, I live about a 1 mile driving distance away from the hospital. It was a very loud explosion. Managed to shake the windows and doors and startle the dog. And we couldn't quite. We're used to some noises from Fort Hood and that type of thing, but this was much greater.
Richard, what went through your mind when you felt those windows rattling?
What the heck was that? Just what would cause that kind of a noise that it would rattle a pretty good sized house?
Right. And Richard, we also mentioned the power outages. Are you and your family experiencing that as well?
Our power comes from Hamilton Co-op, and it doesn't come through the city of Gatesville. So, no, I have power at the present time.
Richard, talk to us a little bit about not only the sound of the explosion, which you mentioned, but also the sounds after the explosion. We were hearing on the scanners just all the ambulances and all the first responders that were headed out there. I assume that it was just immediate. You heard one and then you heard the other.
We heard the explosion. You could actually, it was almost concussive. You could feel it. We didn't hear any sounds of sirens immediately thereafter, but when you would go outside, I'd say probably within 5 minutes, you could start hearing sounds of ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars.
And you're looking at a live picture right now from the scene there from our crew. Again, those fire trucks and ambulances showing up to the scene at this point. We have not gotten a confirmed number of injuries or any fatalities at this point, but we are told that other hospitals in the area have opened their doors for any patients from Coryell to make sure that they are taken care of as fast and as well as possible. We do have on the phone with us Richard DeYoung, who lives very close to this scene where it happened, talking a little bit about what the experience was like earlier this afternoon. Can you recall, you mentioned you're used to noises with Fort Hood right there. Can you recall anything that sounded like this afternoon in the 2 o'clock hour?
No, this was much greater and more concussive. It was almost like you could feel it in the house.
Now, Richard, since you live in the area, can you talk to us? Is this hospital a very busy hospital, or is it typically quiet? Is it surprising to see this many crews, these many people here on scene?
Well, I can see the reporting on the screen. We stay away from that area knowing that there's an issue going on. But the hospital is the regional hospital for Gatesville. It's a nice facility. It has a good-sized clinic on one side, and I know they're doing a large wing addition at the present time in the area. You see the construction crews all the time going in and out of the area.
All right, thank you very much, Richard. Well, please stay safe, and we're going to continue here with this live picture. As you can see, crews are just continuing to wave in more EMS and first responder vehicles. Now, Robert, you did mention that we know that some area hospitals are opening their doors to patients. I actually did talk with Baylor, Scott & White here in Waco. I spoke with their media personnel. Right now, they're actually still being debriefed on this. We don't know if they will, in fact, be bringing in patients from Gatesville to Waco, but we know right now this is an ongoing debrief that they are looking at, trying to assess the situation and see exactly how many injuries there are, because that is one thing we have not been able to confirm yet, is how many injuries are ongoing. And actually, I'm on the phone with Megan right now. She is just letting Megan from Baylor Scott and White in Waco. She's telling me that a statement is coming out here momentarily, so hopefully we can get that and bring it to you here in just a few moments.
Yeah, and if we can get her on the phone to answer maybe some questions on how they're able to help as well. Now, viewers out there, if you recall this particular part of Coryell Memorial Healthcare System, they were going through, we mentioned that this explosion happening likely in an area where they were having construction, but they were going through a big project, about $42 million, I believe, in the expansion on the facility. So still waiting to confirm if that particular area is where this explosion happened or where this sparked. We also don't know, a lot of questions out there. We also don't know exactly what sparked this. If you recall, we had a house explosion in Waco just a few days ago, I believe on Friday, where that was caused by lacquer. But there's so many things when you're building a building and a facility like a hospital that can get in the way. There's boiler rooms, there's different electrical systems going on in there. So a lot of questions that still need to be answered as to exactly what caused this, who was working on it, and how they are at this point in the condition of those construction workers inside.
Exactly, and of course we cannot forget that our area first responders have the utmost basic training and incredible training here. You know, they've had the experience not only with the house that happened last Friday, but also they are expertise as they were here during the West Fertilizer explosion. So we must remember that our area hospitals, we've done a few stories, they are equipped with level 2 trauma centers to be able to handle multiple injuries if those have happened. And again, we're still waiting on confirmation on how many injuries have happened here. Were there any fatalities? Those are all questions right now we are working to get answered for you as we're still trying to contact the marketing director there at the Coryell Memorial Hospital.
Now, if we're able to see if Maribel Santiago, who is live at the scene, if she is still available, if she's able to grab anyone walking by that may have been either working in the hospital. Maribel mentioned in her live report earlier that she saw a bunch of nurses with just terrified looks on their faces. A lot of them, you know, I'm sure that never experiencing something like this before or hearing something like that so close. As we heard from Richard DeYoung, who lives in the area nearby, he mentioned that the sound of the explosion coming from the hospital, Coryell Memorial Hospital, was so loud he could feel it in his home, and it shook and rattled the doors, scared the dogs. As you can see there, the smoke billowing from the facilities.
Right. He also mentioned, very interesting, it was very different from any of the Fort Hood explosions that he's heard. So this sounds like it was a more powerful, more impactful explosion that he felt at his home. Yeah,
and people living over in that area very familiar with the sounds of Fort Hood. They're always doing some testing and going through training over there, so they know the difference between one explosion and something else, and this was clearly something else. As you can see, again, the hospital explosion happening at Coryell Memorial happening right near Highway 84, where traffic is just backed up to this point where crews are being held back. We are waiting for a statement from both the hospital and from Baylor Scott and White, as well as we still wait for word exactly on how many injuries we're talking about regarding this explosion and exactly what happened here. Again, this happening in the 2 o'clock hour, early 2 o'clock, around 2:15, 2:30 is when this happened, and so many first responders showing up to the scene. We're talking about Temple Fire and Rescue, hazmat units clearly on the scene with construction equipment and any fumes or any sort of liquids that are out there as well. Also, we have also word again that Texas and Empower out there is out for any customers out there at least until 6 o'clock. So clearly we're going to be continuing to have our live coverage as long as we possibly can. Do we have Maribel ready for an update if she has anything, Megan?
I believe right now she is still looking, but let's go back to the map a little bit. I don't know if we can zoom in even more on the map, but just to give you a better idea of where the hospital sits here in town. Now, Gatesville downtown is a little bit further to the east, and near where this hospital is, it's sort of like a medical district. We've got a dermatology office nearby. We also have family dental. There's also a Mexican restaurant out there. I'm sure, you know, we talked with Richard DeYoung earlier, who described feeling that explosion at his home. He's a mile away, so I can't imagine what the folks there experienced. And also just south of where that is, southwest, is the Gatesville Municipal Airport. So just to kind of give viewers an idea of where this is all happening. Again, this is just west. This is just west of downtown.
I know we have an extra map here to show a little bit closer. If we can pull that up. This is
there we go.
Clearly Google Maps right
Yeah,
here.
and Megan, Megan, our producer, if you're able to zoom in a little bit closer to downtown area. I know we had some reports, unconfirmed reports through Facebook and our commenters, that they were saying that the Coryell County Courthouse, they also felt the boom there, and it's right there, if you can see, just to the edge of the screen on the very right hand side. You can see that little blue dot, and that's where the courthouse is, and there was power that was out all the way there. Again, earlier the power company saying that there were about 900 businesses and homes that were without power in that area. Let's see, that's from Texas NM Power. It said Gatesville, the incident knocked out power to about 900 homes and businesses. We can't start working until it is safe to do so, and they're allowed back in. And Robert, you had an update as far as the timing on when that was expected to start.
Right, the expected start at this point has now been pushed to 6 o'clock for people out there with power. We're talking close to 1,000 customers, both business and residential, in that area. Initially, they thought they were able to get the power back up around 5 o'clock. That has been pushed an extra hour, which gives you some sort of idea just to where they are with this scene, because if it happened around the 2:15 hour, again, there was that explosion, clearly the fire that we saw, so it took firefighters a little while to get those flames under control before they can go in and see if there is any instability in that building, if there was a collapse, what type of injuries are we talking about. I know early reports were that there were close to about a dozen people injured at this point. We're still waiting to get confirmation again on that total number of injuries and the extent of those injuries right now, but it's just taking a long time because, as you know from being out on these scenes, Leslie, there's so many steps that they have to go through first to make sure that they get the information correct and make sure that anybody inside is okay.
Right, and again, here's another live look here at Coryell Memorial Hospital. This hospital is just off of 84, just going past downtown Gatesville, right off of Main and Memorial. You can see right behind that van that is backing up, you can see ambulances here are still on scene, still looking like a very fluid, active scene. I know we've got another crew en route, our reporter Christina Boward. She just sent in some photos. Production in the back. I don't know if you could help pull those up, but it looks like traffic is at pretty much a standstill as she's trying to make her way there. This again is the live look on the scene. But we're having some difficulty getting our crews out there because of the traffic situation, as you can imagine. And for those of you that are just joining in with us, again, there has been confirmation of a hospital explosion near a wing that was under construction. It happened in the 2 o'clock hour. Right now, we are still working to confirm reports of any injuries, the extent of those injuries, and any fatalities. We have a reporter on scene, Maribel Santiago, who just moments ago described nurses running back and forth, very concerned. I'm not sure if Maribel, if you can hear us, but if you can pop up in front of that camera and maybe give us a live update, kind of to continue to describe what you can see there. We've switched the picture to Glenn Jones. I spoke with him earlier. He was not on scene, but he did describe a large boom, and of course that billowing smoke that followed afterwards. Of course, there from the scene, Robert, we can see that that smoke has since cleared out, but very scary, very dark black smoke. I know you and I have covered a number of fires, and usually black smoke is not a good scene. The white smoke is kind of, you know, you can tell they're getting the hot spots out. It's pretty much out of danger, but that black smoke an indication that it's a very dangerous situation.
And the one thing I'd be curious about is that, and we mentioned that there are a number of nearby health systems that are willing to help and open their doors for any patients that need to be. We saw a couple of vans in our live picture here from other health systems. And I'd be curious to know if those vans are transporting any patients from one location to the other. Because you can see a lot of people standing outside, but there are people clearly inside the hospital that would need to be transported, and they got to get from point A to point B one way or the other.
Right. We know that Fort Hood, we do have confirmation that Fort Hood had sent in some paramedics into the area to help with ongoing triage if that is needed. If it has risen to that level, again, we're still working to find out the extent of any injuries. I have been in talks right now with Baylor, Scott and White from Waco. They are also working to see, they're actually convening right now inside a meeting as we speak, and we're waiting to hear the latest from them to see if they will be taking patients from Coryell Memorial. Actually, here is her response right now. It says the Temple, Scott and White Medical Center in Temple and Scott and White Medical Center Hillcrest have activated right now their emergency operations center and are preparing to receive and treat victims of the incident at Coryell Memorial. Right now, both hospitals do remain open. They're operating while the emergency teams are making preparations to evaluate and treat arriving victims. Any surgeries right now that were planned and any procedures, those are continuing. So that must be good news, Robert, that right now it seems as if there are no other surgeries that are being canceled to make way for any possible surgeries that might need. They do not right now have any information about the number of victims that might be coming to the hospital. And then, of course, a reminder, Temple, Baylor Scott and White Temple is a Level 1 trauma center for the region, and Scott and White Hillcrest Level 2 trauma center. So just the very latest update, she just sent that out right now.
And from what I can also take out of that response from them is that the number of injuries, I would believe, are relatively low if they're not expecting to be flooded by patients that are coming over there. So again, we don't have a confirmed exact number of the people injured or what those injuries are, but if the other hospitals are not expected to be canceling services, then at least that leads me to believe that the number of injuries are low enough where they don't need to be brought in. And you mentioned how this is just impacting so many people out there in that area. Specifically, if you just go on any social media right now, you'll see people with ties to the hospital right now, one in which I've been looking back and forth, and just some Twitter responses out there. One woman saying that there was the explosion at Coryell Memorial Hospital in Gatesville where her dad was working. Thankfully, he is okay, but send prayers in that direction for everyone involved. And you see that last part of the messages echoed over and over, both on Facebook, both on Twitter. Send prayers to everyone involved in this.
Absolutely, and we're just being told that Maribel Santiago, our reporter who right now is on scene, she has just found someone who can do a live interview with her. Maribel, if you can hear me, talk to us. What are you seeing right now on scene, and who is this gentleman next to you?
Right, well, Leslie, Robert, what I'm seeing right now, like I said, it's still an active scene. Lots of construction workers hanging out to the right side of me. Lots of first responders just going in and out of this road across the street from the hospital. Right now with me, I have Justin Ashby, who kind of came here after he heard everything. Now, Justin, what brings you here to the scene to find out, what's going on?
I've had multiple people call me and tell me there was an explosion at the hospital I used to work at, and I was making sure my employees were okay, my ex-employees were okay. I started this job, so I was really, it gave me chills, so I came back to check on everybody, and it scared me. It really did.
Now, you, as we spoke earlier, you said, you don't work on the construction site right now, but you did help break ground and help build when it first broke down in the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how many people were working here on the site?
As far as us, we were mechanical contractors, so there was quite a few of us out here. I've worked for that company for 9+ years, and I've worked with these guys on the field. Every single one of them, I've seen their faces, since I came out here, and it just gave me the chills. I just want to make sure everybody was safe and okay, and see who got hurt and who didn't, so that was about it.
Now, when you were talking to these fellow, former coworkers of yours, what are they feeling right now? What are they telling you?
One person is, it was horrific on one person, and a few other people got hurt. One of my closest friends that I used to work with, he got burned 40% of his body, and he's gonna be okay, thank God. But that's all I've heard so far, you know.
And you said, you know, these are multiple contractors working on this construction site right now at the hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I guess, you know, anything else you've seen, you've heard since you've been here?
That's it. That's all I've heard.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and tell us what you've seen and what you've heard. And right now, like I said, there is a handful of construction workers just hanging out on the site right near where the construction is happening near the hospital. So far, we're working to get more information, and we'll bring it to you as it becomes available. Guys, back to you.
Now, Maribel, before that gentleman leaves, he mentioned that there are multiple contractors working on this. We know that he is not currently someone who works on the scene, but was in the initial contracting group that started this project. Can he talk towards safety? You know, Maribel, you covered the explosion last Friday where there were some injuries due to a lacquer type explosion. What are the safety protocols when these contractors and workers are working on scene, especially like a hospital?
Definitely, Justin. And you know, as our anchor Leslie was telling us, we just finished, you know, covering a story on a recent explosion that happened in Waco with some contractors. What are some safety protocols, you know, as a former construction worker, that you guys have to take into account when you guys are working on these sites, on these construction sites over here?
Just be aware of your surroundings and watch out for your co-workers as well, not just your back. Watch everybody's.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So lots being taken into account, as you can tell with this active scene. Lots of emotions. Lots of people just trying to figure out going on, just like we are. And we'll continue to provide that information when it becomes available.
All right, Maribel Santiago live on the scene out there at Coryell Memorial. We'll let her go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you, Maribel, but as you were talking, our producer pulled up some video. This is actually the first video we're getting into our newsroom of the ongoing situation just moments after it happened. You can see the smoke billowing. This was sent to us again by one of our viewers, Glenn Jones, who said he was not on the scene. You can even see he's pretty far away from this, but if you can see, Robert, just the amount of heavy black smoke that is coming from that, it is just incredible. You can see the water tower there. And it'll be interesting to see how many injuries have come out of this. Again, just an update reminder, Baylor, Scott and White, Temple and Hillcrest have activated their emergency operations. They are ready to begin receiving any patients, not only from the hospital that were already there, but also any patients that could be incoming as a result of this explosion.
Yeah, and just looking at the amount of smoke coming out of the facility right there, you can tell this is very fresh when this happened. We've only seen a still picture of it before, but now we get to see just how much smoke and how fast it is coming out of the building. And in that interview that Maribel had with that one man who worked at the facility, he said that he was hearing one person was suffering from serious injuries right now. Maybe 40% of his body is badly burned at this point, and a number of other injuries as well. Still waiting for confirmation from the hospital at this point on those injuries, on the extent of those injuries. But if that's true, then, you know, 40% of your body being burned in the facility, you were very close to that explosion when it happened. Right.
And as a reminder, you know, we had the contractors from Friday's explosion that had to be sent to a burn center at Parkland in Dallas. Right now, we have not heard anything from their facility in taking any burn victims, but we know, again, that Baylor Scott and White Medical Center in Temple and Baylor Scott and White Medical Center Hillcrest have activated their emergency operations and are preparing to receive and treat any victims. Now, important to note, they say they are not canceling any of their current surgeries that they already had planned on the schedule. They are just making themselves available for any future necessities that may be incoming with this recent incident.
I get it. If you're just joining in right now, we have confirmation of an explosion at the Coryell Memorial Hospital in Gatesville. You're looking at video from just shortly after that explosion happened from a viewer. This happening around the 2 o'clock hour with in the area of the hospital where there was some construction going on. Now, we are hearing confirmation that there are injuries. The extent and the number of those injuries we're still waiting for, but we're being told that at least one person has suffered some serious injuries as a result of this, likely construction worker in that area, since this is a part of the building where there were no patients, which is a very fortunate aspect of this.
Absolutely. And again, this is a live look here. Now we know that Fort Hood has sent in crews. We know that Temple Fire has sent in crews. Marivelle said she was on scene, saw Colleen sending in crews. So we will continue to monitor this situation. We will go ahead and wrap it up for now. But again, we do have our newscast at 5:30, and we will be bringing you any live updates here on air, online. Of course, our website, centexproud.com. You can also download our Fox 44 mobile app to, of course, stay up to date with any of these situations. We again have multiple crews, 2 crews that are still headed to the scene, 1 crew that is on the ground right now.
All right, we will see you again in about 45 minutes or so. For the latest updates, go online to our website or mobile app. We'll see you soon.